What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be getting into my Week 6 NBA Power Rankings. So, let's get into it, guys. Starting with the number 30 team, staying at 30 from last week. We have the Houston Rockets going 1-2 this week. Ever since my last Power Rankings, it was on Wednesday, so these records aren't going to be as big as for the weeks as you might expect, but they went 1-2 since my last Power Rankings. So yeah, just same old Rockets basically every time. Don't really need to go in depth on them. They got some talent, but just clearly the worst roster in the league. Not very well coached, and just the worst team in my opinion right now. But number 29 is getting down there. The Detroit Pistons staying at the same spot, 3-15. 0-3 this week. Very frustrating Pistons. They have the worst record in the NBA right now. Wow, Detroit. I was expecting this to be a big year for Cade Cunningham to have a little bit of a breakthrough season, but it has not gone well through the first 18 games for the Pistons in the first 5 weeks. 3-15. They added Bogdanovic, a player that I thought was supposed to give them a little bit more of a scoring option. He has had a good year. He's averaging the most points per game, but this team has a minus 9.2 differential. Their defense is not good at all. They're giving up 118 points per game, which that's the most in the NBA this season. So clearly they just cannot make up for that bad defense, and it's costing them games right now. All right, number 28. We're going to have the Charlotte Hornets dropping down 2 spots and into the bad tier. Where is Charlotte? Did this last time. There they are. The Hornets go... let me see. The Hornets go 0-3 this week. Man, the Charlotte Hornets are another frustrating team this season. I was expecting a lot more from this team. LaMelo Ball goes down with an injury earlier after he came back, so that does not help them out at all. This team's just not very good at all. Clearly, without LaMelo Ball, they're struggling. They've went 1-9 in the last 10 games, and they're one of the worst teams in the NBA right now. So, to round out the bad tier, number 27, we're going to have the Magic jumping up a spot. The young talent for the Magic clearly has been showing that they can pull off some upsets and get some wins this season. Have had 5 wins this year, but same old Magic team that I really have known them to be. They got a lot of talent that they can build off of for the future, but still rebuilding in Orlando. I will say that it's not been horrible for the Magic, especially as of late. They've gone 4-6 in the last 10 games after a very bad start. So, yeah, you can't be too mad with the Magic as they go 1-2 this week. All right, that rounds out the bad tier. A team that managed to find themselves back into the in the hunt tier. Number 26, we have the Los Angeles Lakers jumping up 2 spots because they went 2-0 this week. We're able to maybe they can make a rally this year. I just cannot count out a team with LeBron James, no matter how old LeBron is and how bad he might be getting. But this team has the talent with AD and LeBron. It's just they got to put things together here. Other than that, it's not a good roster really at all. Their defense isn't good. They just don't have a lot of talent in general. But I think it's enough for them to be competitive, and that's why I do think that they're in the hunt tier right now. And they're starting to figure some things out. Take that as you will. All right, so let's go on to number 25. We're going to have the San Antonio Spurs dropping down 2 spots. Had a very solid start to the year. I do believe they were 5-1 at one point this season. But this week, another horrible week for the Spurs. Go 0-3. They have lost 5 straight games. Went 1-9 in the past 10 games. They have the lowest differential of any team in the NBA right now, minus 10.2. Wow. So I just feel like this is the Spurs, man. They're gonna compete in some games. That's what Greg Popovich is here for. Or they're gonna get blown out. That is the Spurs. That's what that differential is telling you right now. And right now they're hanging on of the in the hunt tier right now because of their solid start. Greg Popovich showed how good of a coach he was earlier this year, but this team has fallen off a mountain ever since then and really have struggled. So they're going to find themselves at number 25 trying to climb out of this hole that they've dug themselves in over the past few weeks. Going on to number 24, we're going to have the Oklahoma City Thunder staying at the same spot. This week, the Thunder go 1-1, so just a solid week for the Thunder. They're just trying to manage the game right now with Gilgeous-Alexander. Got a lot of young pieces down in there in Oklahoma City. Their young rookie, I totally forgot his name, but the tall guy out of Gonzaga obviously is injured right now, which hurts them for this season. But if they can get him back, I'm not sure when he's coming back, but probably not for a little bit. If he can get back, then this team might be taken a little bit more seriously right now. But the Thunder are basically the same thing I thought them to be right now, just a mediocre team that's got a lot of draft picks for the future, and the future does look bright. All right, another frustrating team, number 23. We're going to have the Chicago Bulls dropping into the play-in tournament tier into this in the hunt tier. Very frustrating performances from the Bulls lately. They go 0-2 this week. Really have had a rough past few weeks. I just say it every time. How is this team this bad? They got all this talent, and they just cannot put it together in wins. And it's costing them games, obviously. They've lost 4 straight games. Their defense isn't very good here. DeRozan, Levine, they got to step up and find ways to win right now because they're struggling. Every team goes through humps like this, so maybe they can turn things around, but right now it's not looking good in Chicago. They're just not looking like a well-coached team right now and really got to get back to playing their basketball. Going on to number 22, dropping down a spot, mainly just because another team is jumping ahead of them. We have the New York Knicks. The Knicks go 1-2 this week, so not a good week by any means for New York. Just clearly the same team. I'm gonna say this about a lot of these teams that just clearly the same team I know them to be. Jalen Brunson, they got Randall, they got all these pieces here. It's just not enough, and if you don't have that star player, it's not enough to be a competitive. Well, not a competitive, but a contender, a legitimate team that I can take seriously. And they're just right now at 22, just sitting literally where the Knicks have been for a long time. All right, so let's go to number 21, a surprising team to say the least this season. Jumping up 4 spots, we have the Indiana Pacers into the play-in tournament tier. Really was having a debate putting the Knicks and the Pacers here. I didn't know who to do, but I did ultimately decide the Pacers. 9-6, you can't overlook it. I always forget his name. Benedict Mathurin, that's his name. He has been a very good standout rookie so far this season, really playing good basketball. Coming off the bench as well. He has not started a game yet, which is very impressive for him. And Miles Turner's obviously a solid defensive player. This team I clearly underestimated coming into the season because the 9-6 start's been very good. They have gone 3-0 this week. Impressed me. We're going to see if the Pacers can keep it going, but right now have shown that they're a very very well-rounded team here. Play for each other and just a solid basketball team right now. So that's where the Pacers are going to sit at 21. Just keep finding ways to win. Let's go to 20. Jumping up 2 spots as well, the Sacramento Kings. They are going to stay in the hunt tier here. But good start for the Sacramento Kings this season. 9-6, go 2-0 this week. Congratulations. The Kings are finally trying to get out of this mediocrity that they've been in over the past 20 years. And they're trying to finally make the play-in tournament. I'm not sure. I don't think they're going to make it at this point. There's just a lot of good Western Conference teams right now. But the Kings have been in a solid team, a pleasant surprise right now. They got all these young pieces, like we said, for a very long time. They just had to put it all together, and they're finally doing that this season. And they're going to find themselves at number 20. So a good start for Sacramento. But let's go to 19, dropping down a spot. We have the Toronto Raptors, 9-8. Really just dropping down a spot. Trying to think. Because of another team passing them, that's why. Yeah, the Raptors, they just went 1-1 this week. So same old Raptors that I think they were. Just a very, very good coach team. They've got a solid defense down here. Very similar to the Knicks, so they just don't really have that standout star player that's going to carry them. But just a well-rounded basketball team this season. And they find themselves sitting at 9-8 at 19. Going on to 18, we're going to have the Washington Wizards going to be jumping up 2 spots here. Washington at 10-7. Washington's very good start to the year, I would say. For the Wizards, they find themselves at 6th seed in the Eastern Conference right now. And Bradley Beal, obviously I underestimated what Bradley Beal, a player that he is. He stepped it up this season, not only just scoring, but he has been able to, now that they've brought in these pieces like Kristaps Porzingis and Kyle Kuzma, some of these other guys that have been stepping up for the Wizards this season. He's been able to move the basketball around. He's averaging 5 assists so far, 5.8 assists so far this season. So he's playing good in that regard. And stepping up as a leader of this team right now. And it's helping them win games. They're 10-7 right now. So Bradley Beal, good. I guess good for the Wizards to sign him back. They're trying to make a push right now. And they find themselves at 18, jumping up 2 spots. Going on to 17, we're going to have the Pelicans staying at the same spot, going 1-1 this week. Same old Pelicans that we know them to be. They obviously got Zion Williamson down in there. They got, I can't think of his name right now. Let me go to the Pelicans. I can't think of his name. Yeah, Brandon Ingram, who's been a very solid start to this season for them. And then CJ McCollum, who clearly was a big trade that they got last season. So this team has just been able to find a lot of options for scoring. Have a solid defense, but a very explosive offense as well. And that's what the Pelicans are. I just don't know if this team's going to be anything more than that right now. It's a tough Western Conference right now. They find themselves at number 10, in my opinion. So it's tough, but I do think that they are in the play-in tournament tier at this moment. Going on to 16, we have the Philadelphia 76ers actually dropping down 2 spots. Just really because of 2 teams that I think impressed me more this week that I think deserve to come ahead of them. The Sixers, James Harden out is a blow, I think, for the Sixers. Joel Embiid's carrying this team, but there's only so much he can carry this team for. He's such a good player. They got, obviously, a solid roster around him, but James Harden, with him in, they're just a better basketball team. And without him out, some of these teams that are playing better right now that impress me are going to be able to slip through the cracks and jump ahead of a team like the Sixers. So they're just trying to, remain afloat until Embiid comes back. They're 8-8 right now. They went 1-1 this week, so not bad for the Sixers at all. Going on to 15, we're going to have the Minnesota Timberwolves staying at the same spot, but they are jumping ahead of the Sixers here. The T-Wolves this week go 2-0, getting back to 500. Solid week for the Timberwolves. A week that they needed, because we know the Timberwolves have a lot of talent on this roster. It's just about finding a way to fit it together. Now, this Western Conference is very rough right now, so the Timberwolves are going to have a tough time, I think, being able to make the playoffs by the end of the year. But obviously, adding Rudy Gobert has helped out this defense. The defense hasn't played great this season, so you'd expect them to step it up a little bit more, but Rudy Gobert's a big piece there. That's why they brought him in, and he's got to be better on defense right now, but I do think he'll be able to step it up. Obviously, Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns are the big two centerpieces of this offense, so they got to get some things going there. A lot of talent in this Timberwolves team. I anticipated that it would come off to a little bit of a shaky start right now, but I think they might catch their stride soon. All right, so let's go to number 14. We're going to have the Brooklyn Nets jumping up 2 spots and into the playoff tier in the Eastern Conference at 8-9. Very, very solid week for the Nets. They go 2-0. And Kyrie Irving is back in the lineup, so that helps out the Nets. Now KD isn't the main show. He's going to have to make a push here because the Nets need to be able to at least make the play-in tournament by the end of the year. Obviously, there's so many stuff that's going to happen in between now and April, so I'm not sure if the Nets are thinking about that right now, but this team obviously has all the talent in the world. Got to fit it all together in order to be a legitimate contender. So that's the Nets right there at 14. Going on to 13, dropping down 3 spots, we have the Miami Heat at 7-10. Man, right when I thought the Heat were starting to figure some things out, they go 0-3 this week. Just very frustrating for Miami right now. Usually this team, we saw last year, they were the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I don't know what is going on with the Heat this season. They're better than this. I just don't know what's happening. Just losing some games that they should win right now. Yeah, I mean they barely lost against the Wizards. Got crushed by the Cavaliers. It's just frustrating for Miami right now. They've got to be better. Jimmy Butler, obviously such a good talent, but he's not really playing as good as I would anticipate this season, only averaging 20 points per game. The defense has got to be better for the Miami Heat, but mainly his offense. His offense has been not good really at all this season, so they got to get some things figured out. I do think they will. That's why I do find them at 13. I do think this team can be a legitimate contender. They got to figure some things out, though. So that is the Miami Heat. Let's go on to number 12. We have the Portland Trail Blazers staying at the same spot. So the Blazers go 0-2 this week. You know, what you get for not moving them up, you get rewarded if you're a power rankings maker and you don't give in to moving the Blazers really high. I know it's just 2 losses, so you shouldn't get too excited about that, but still, the Trailblazers, just still the same team I know them as. Damian Lillard is the star of this show. He did struggle in this game, especially in that game against the Jazz, though. But he's the star of the show. But I don't think that's going to be enough for them to be a legitimate contender right now. I do think that the 8th best team in the Western Conference. And that's where they find themselves at number 12 right now. Not really a lot to say about the Trailblazers at 10-6. Moving on to number 11, we have the Dallas Mavericks staying at the same spot right now at 9-7. The Mavericks this week go 1-2, so not a good week for Dallas. But again, the same Mavericks. I know them as very similar teams here. It's the Luka Doncic show here in Dallas. I don't think that's going to be enough. I'm going to be completely honest. Luka Doncic, I don't think, can carry this team to a championship and be a legitimate contender all by himself. They have Spencer Dinwiddie, but really nothing else this year because really was not a very good offseason. They lost Porzingis and Jalen Brunson. So I'm not a big Mavericks fan, really. I just don't really believe in this team too much other than Luka Doncic, and that's where I find themselves at number 11 here, just staying at the same spot. Going on to number 10, we have the Utah Jazz. Jumping up 3 spots, a team very close to cracking through the slips and getting into the contender tier right now. 12-6. They are number 1 in the Western Conference right now and have found themselves into the top 10. Who would have thought that this season? What a start for the Utah Jazz. They played a lot of games, and they just keep finding ways to win. They beat the Trailblazers and the Phoenix Suns this week, 2 solid teams that they beat. You gotta love this start for Utah. Trading away Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, they have still not lost a beat. Will Hardy's definitely, in my opinion, should be the Coach of the Year candidate right now. Jordan Clarkson's been very good this season. Mike Conley is out for a few weeks, so that's a little bit of a rough injury for the Jazz. But they got Colin Sexton, who's been very solid. They got Lauri Markkanen, who's been very good. And this is just a team sport here in Utah. They are playing as a team right now, and it's working. They don't really have that main superstar player. But really, that's not what the Jazz were thinking about this year. They clearly were thinking about just being a very competitive team right now. And they found themselves, maybe even a contender. Maybe I am a Utah Jazz fan. Maybe I'm not bringing them up too much here. But right now, been very impressive with the Utah Jazz and are going to sit at 10. Number 9, though, rounding out the playoff tier, we're going to have the Atlanta Hawks here. Okay, so the Hawks at 10-6. I've been trying to move this team up. This team is very close, but they go 1-1 this week, so my opinion really doesn't change on the Hawks. And that's why I don't think they deserve to be moved up. Yeah, so Atlanta. Clearly, DeJounte Murray and Trae Young are two star players for this team that they're winning. But they only have a plus 0.8 differential right now. So they're winning close games, but they're not really, dominating a lot of these games. They have found ways to lose big games, so that's tough for the Hawks. This defense has some worries here, but the offense is very explosive. But right now, I'm not sure if that's enough for me to put them in the contender tier. We're going to have to keep giving it some time right now. I'm going to be cautious with the Atlanta Hawks. So they're going to be staying at the same spot at number 9. All right, so now we're in the contender tier here. Let's go to number 8. We have the Golden State Warriors. Stay at the same spot. Go at 8-9 this week. Go 2-1. So the Warriors starting to get back on their groove a little bit with Steph Curry and this roster. We all knew. At least I knew. I didn't think this struggles were going to continue. It still has been there for the Warriors. It's still been a climb for Golden State, but they're trying to get back. Just one game at a time right now. They aren't even in the play-in tournament in the Western Conference right now. I think they'll definitely find themselves into that by the end of the year. I just can't see Curry not. I mean, Curry and Klay Thompson has been very good this season. It's just the defense for the Warriors been very bad. And they got to figure that out. But this is the reigning champs. They got it. They deserve some benefit of the doubt, I think, when it comes to these power rankings. And right now, I think they're number 8. Let's move on to number 7. We have the Memphis Grizzlies dropping down 4 spots. It's really only because Ja Morant's injured here for a few weeks. Ja is the heart and soul of this team. This team does play well without Ja, though. Anyway, I think this team will be able to hold the fork. He's going to be out for a week or so, I think. So that's really why they're only coming down. It's a very tight Western Conference, and these rankings in the contender tier are pretty darn tight. But I do think that the Grizzlies are going to be just fine. Really just coming down because of Ja here. Ja is such a special player. Obviously, you're going to have a setback if he is injured. So that's where the Grizzlies are at number 7. So a few teams taking advantage of the Grizzlies falling down. Number 6, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are going to be staying at the same spot here at 6, at 10-6. The Cavs this week go 2-1. So they had a little bit of a rough stretch. Now they go 2-1, getting back to that Cavs we saw earlier this year. Donovan Mitchell still playing at a very high level here in Cleveland, averaging 29.9 points per game. Darius Garland's coming back from injury. He's playing well. Obviously, Mobley. It's just a solid, young Cavaliers team that could look very scary for the future. My opinion really doesn't change on the Cavaliers, though. Just a very solid team. Let's go to number 5. Cracking into the top 5 this week, we have the LA Clippers jumping up 2 spots. They go 2-0 this week, but mainly it's because Kawhi Leonard is now starting to get back in the rotation here in Clippers. He is limited, though, that is for sure. But he's getting back, and this Clippers team is working things out right now when it comes to him. Now, I really do think that he is going to be a big step for the Clippers if Kawhi is in there. He's a very good defender, very good two-way player, just the heart of this team right now. Paul George is missing this game against the Jazz tonight, though, which is rough for the Clippers, but I think they'll be just fine without. I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but a very, very good sign for the Clippers that Leonard is starting to play again, and this team is scary with him in. Going on to number 4, we have the Denver Nuggets jumping up a spot because of the Grizzlies falling down. Wow, the Nuggets been a very solid team right now. They go 1-2 this week, so not great, but 10-6. Obviously, the 2-time reigning MVP and Nikola Jokic obviously going to be a very good player for them. And Jamal Murray coming back. They got that second scoring option here. Just a much better team than a lot of people probably think right now. And probably, they don't get enough credit. And that's what the Nuggets are right now. Just a very solid team. Let's go to number 3. We have the Phoenix Suns jumping up a spot. The Suns this week go 2-1, so a solid week for Phoenix. Did lose to the Jazz, though, which was rough, but I think the Suns are going to be just fine. Obviously, they have Devin Booker. Obviously, they have all these pieces here. This team's going to be just fine. Chris Paul down here. We've said it a million times. This team's got to fit together some things in the playoffs, though, for me to really think this team can be elite. But that doesn't come for a long time. So right now, just going to find themselves at 3. And then it is so tight between number 1 and 2 right now. I am leaning towards the Bucks, though, at 1. So I'm going to just throw out these teams. Both these teams stay in the same spot. The gap is slimming indeed. The Celtics have a 9-game winning streak. The Bucks go 1-1 this week. It's tight. Celtics obviously have that top-tier defense. The Bucks obviously have that top-tier offense with Giannis. We're going to see who's going to be able to win.